Pleasant day, everyone. I am Christine Kledev Sardan. Before I introduce our topic, I would like to introduce my group members who will share more about the Module 5. They are Sandra Cabalias, Jaylene Apolinario, Eliza Texon, and Nur Zaina Salim. So today we're going to talk about what is lesson plan. So a learner-centered lesson plan is focused on the needs, interests, and abilities of the students. Unlike the traditional approach where the teacher does most of the talking, this method allows students to take an active role in learning process. The teacher becomes a facilitator who guides students through activities that promotes thinking, creativity, and collaboration. The goal is to make learning more meaningful and personalized so that students are more engaged and motivated. This approach helps prepare them to solve real-life problems and become independent learners.
Good day to each and everyone. My name is Jaylene D. Apolinario, and today we will talk about the Module 5, which is the Learner-Centered Lesson Plan. So, the assessment method. What is assessment method? This refers to how the teachers will measure if the student have achieved the lesson objectives. In a learner-centered approach, assessment are not just tasks or quizzes. They include activities that let students show their understanding in different ways. This can include the following: group presentation, creative projects, peer assessment, and exit slips. So reflection journals, the key is that assessment are aligned with learning goals and allow students to apply knowledge, not just recall facts. So the next one is lesson reflection. This is a part of the lesson plan where the teacher reflects on the lesson after it's delivered and answered questions like: what worked well in the lesson? What challenges came up? How did the student respond? What changes can be made next time? So in the learner-centered teaching, reflection helps improve teaching practices and better meet student needs. So there are 5 main characteristics of an effective lesson plan. Now I will just explain to you the 3 because the 2 will explain by my co-member. So 1 builds upon students' prior knowledge. So lessons connect new concept to what students already know. This helps deepen understanding and makes learning more meaningful. Number 2 allows for flexibility. So good lesson plan can adapt based on student needs or unexpected situation. It's not right teachers can adjust pacing, materials, or activities as needed. So for the last one is the clarifies transitions. So clear transitions help students move smoothly from one activity or topic to another. This keeps the class organized and reduces confusions. So that would be all for my discussions, and I hope you have learned something from this. Thank you.
So, good day everyone. Good day to you, Coach Judith Martinez. Today, I will introduce to you the most effective lesson plans, and it has 6 parts. So, everyone, the most effective lesson plans are structured to ensure a clear and engaging learning experience for students, while the provided list includes 4 key components. So, the next discussant will provide the 2. So now class, we have the first one is lesson objectives. So this section outlines the specific learning goals students are expected to achieve by the end of the lesson. So objectives should be SMART. So when you say SMART, it should be specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. So the second one is the related requirements. So this section connects the lesson to relevant standards, curriculum guidelines, or learning objectives. So it ensures alignment with national, states, or school-specific expectations. So this section helps teachers demonstrate how their lesson contribute to broader learning goals. So we have here the third one is the lesson materials. So this section lists all the resources needed for the lesson, including handouts, textbooks, visual aids, technology, and supplies for activities. So a comprehensive list ensures the teachers have everything they need for a smooth lesson delivery. So the last one is the lesson procedure. This section outlines the step-by-step plan for conducting the lesson. It includes introduction or hook activating prior knowledge. So we also have the instruction, direct teaching, modeling, guided practice. We also have the independent practice, application of skills, problem solving, closure review summarizing key points or reflections. So this section provides a broad map for teachers to follow during the lesson.
Good day, students. My name is Teacher Eliza Texon. So now we will talk about the allotted time for the students' involvement. So in a school setting, it refers to the amount of time designated for the students to actively engage in the learning activities, whether it is in the class or during extracurricular activities or through a various form of the students' participation. This time is crucial for the academic success, fostering students' engagement and promoting their overall development. So the examples of the allotted time impacts, it is the student involvement. So the student involvement in groups or tutorials can sometimes be negatively associated with the academic achievement, especially for the low ability students or in the fields like science and engineering. In summary, the allotted time for students' involvement is critical factor in shaping a student's educational experience. It directly impacts their academic performance, engagement in the learning, and overall development. So now let's moving on to the prompt teacher's reflection. So meaning to say, it is to encourage or stimulate a teacher to think deeply about their own teaching, practices and experiences and decisions. It is often used in the context of professional development where the prompts like questions, feedback, or situations are given to help the teachers evaluate what worked and what didn't and how they can improve. For example, a prompt for reflection might be, how did my students respond to the day's lesson and what could I do differently next time? So the next lesson is the instructional learning processes, the learning objectives. So the lesson objective lists what students will be able to do after completing the lesson. So these objectives let you easily tell if your lesson has effectively taught your students new concepts and skills. It can feel overwhelming to pin down a specific takeaway for a lesson, but you can break the process into steps to do it in a breeze. First, it's the best to view your lesson objectives as goals for your class and students. One of the most popular goal setting is the strategies is the SMART. It is the criteria which ensures goals are focused in the context of the lesson planning. You can use the SMART criteria to determine your lesson objectives. Remember the SMART criteria? S is for specific. Is the objective specific? M is for, is the objective measurable? Is this objective attainable by all students? Is the objective relevant to your class and students? So is the objective time based to align with your syllabus? So for the each objective, it's important to start with an action that relates to what students should be able to do after the lesson, depending on what topic you are teaching and the level of the knowledge your students have. So these actions will vary. For example, when teaching brand new concepts, you may define actions like define, identify, explain, and determine. When creating your lesson objectives, keep in mind that it's easier to measure student success when you have a specific goals. Once you put your lesson objectives together, it's time to tie them in with the next part of your lesson plan, the related requirements. So now let's moving on to the teaching content. So it refers to the information, skills, and concept that a teacher delivers to students during a lesson or course. It includes facts and knowledge, like historical dates and scientific theories. Another is the skills, such as writing, problem solving, or using a tool. Another is the concept and ideas, like democracy, graffiti, or theme in literature. Another is the resources, that is like the textbooks, videos, articles, and activities used to teach the material. So basically, it's what is being taught.
Hi, good afternoon everyone. I am teacher Nurzana K. Salim and I am here to discuss about the use of the Think, Pair, Share strategy, which requires students to think individually about a topic or answer to a question and share ideas with classmates. Another is to make time for journaling. We all know that a journal can be a tool for students to reflect on the lessons you have taught and activities you have run, helping them process new information. When it comes to education in emergencies, it is a critical, life-saving response that works to protect children in conflict and natural disasters and preserve their right to education. It is education that protects the well-being, fosters learning opportunities, and nurtures the overall development of people affected by conflicts and disasters. Next is the foundational standards. This domain details standards for community participation, and resources coordination and analysis, assessment, response strategies, monitoring, evaluation. The standards described here are critical for an effective education response. They are the basis for the application of the standards for access and learning environment, teaching and learning, teachers and other education personnel, and education policy. Another is the teaching learning domain. These standards focus on critical elements that promote effective teaching and learning, including curricula, training, professional development and support, instruction and learning processes, assessments of learning outcomes. So, A. Curricula, which means culturally, socially, and linguistically relevant curricula are used to provide formal and non-formal education appropriate to the particular context and needs of the learners. B. Training, professional development, and support. The teachers and other education personnel receive periodic, relevant, and structured training according to needs and circumstances. C. Instruction and learning processes. Instruction and learning processes are learner-centered, participatory, and inclusive. Letter D. Assessment and learning outcomes. These are appropriate methods used to evaluate learning outcomes. To summarize the lessons in topic number 4, entitled The Learner-Centered Pedagogy, which emphasizes diverse delivery modalities, face-to-face, blended, and online distance, and flexible learning structures, formal ALS, ADM. To cater to varied learning styles, effective teaching employs active, cooperative, and inquiry-based methods, incorporating strategies like cooperative learning, presentations, role-playing, and demonstrations. Differentiated instruction utilizing learning stations, sensory engagement, think, pair, share, and journaling ensures inclusive learning. Even in emergencies, maintaining foundational standards and adapting the teaching learning domain are crucial for continued education. The overarching goal is to create a dynamic and responsive learning environment that empowers students and fosters their success. That's all for today's lesson. I hope you learned a lot for this day. Thanks for watching.